This new era of college football that could be happening is perfect for Ole Miss football.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, the most watched Ole Miss podcast around. I am your host, Steven Willis, a 10-year veteran member of the national media with Yahoo Sports and a former Ole Miss staff member. Today's show, we talk about why Ole Miss and teams like Ole Miss, they're positioned to be the big winners of this new era of college football. We break down what could be coming if the college football playoff goes through with their overhaul and what that could mean for programs like Ole Miss over the next few years. It's not a perfect system, but it might be perfectly suited for Ole Miss. There is a big distinction there. And also big thanks to Brian Smith as well. Next week will be closer to what you're used to with me with 5 days on. Even a Thursday is an evergreen show. Remember, we're free and available on all the podcast apps and on YouTube. Thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen every day, and a special hello to the insiders and everydayers who make the show what it is. And don't forget to find a second listen on the network. Chris Gordy at Locked On SEC and Corey Burton at Locked On Vandy offer even more perspectives on college football, the SEC, and all things Ole Miss. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when that first $5 bet wins. So this is inching closer to an overhaul starting with the 2026, 2027 playoffs that is in the queue. There have been long rumors of the SEC and the Big Ten kind of having carte blanche to make the changes necessary and that they want to see. This change will be perfect for Ole Miss, exactly what they need. And we will explain that over the next 3 segments or so, even dig into the place of where baseball sits in the Ole Miss scheme of things now, and exactly what is important to fans. Where do they sit? What do they need to do in this new era of college sports? So we'll talk about that as well. But first of all, we'll talk about this new change in the college football playoff. And everybody has done shows about this, to where Ross Dellinger did reporting back in February. It's getting closer to coming to fruition. And honestly, it is going to come to fruition because the SEC and the Big Ten doesn't need votes to change it. They just need to agree. So whatever they decide is what they're going to do. So this is going to happen because this is from their brainchild to begin with. Ross Dellinger from the Yahoo Sports said the 4 power conference commissioners held an in-person meeting in New York on Thursday to discuss several issues, including a future playoff format. Sources tell Yahoo Sports, Big Ten, and SEC, they control the future format. They don't need the Big 12 or the ACC to be on board. They just need to agree on it. They continue to favor multiple automatic qualifiers for their conference. What does that mean? Well, the SEC and the Big Ten would get 4 automatic qualifiers. The ACC would get 2. The Big 12, 2. There would be a group of 6, and there would be 3 at-large winners. Now, at the end of the year, there could be play-in games conference-wide. We'll talk about that in just a second. It's going to be really cool if that happens. And also another thing that is perfect for a program like Ole Miss. A decision is expected over the next month or two. The Big Ten and the SEC hold their spring meetings later this month. I think Ole Miss is right after the SEC tournament, and the SEC, where the SEC is expected to seriously explore a 9-game conference schedule, a move contingent on the college football playoff, and negotiations with ESPN for more revenue. The rumor is ESPN is willing to go $50 million more for the conference per year for the additional conference game. It could be like $3 million just for playing that game. That is more than the gate receipts would come from that game. This is a TV sport at the moment. And Yahoo Sports did a story in February about the comment and about the willingness to share more revenue, ESPN, for a 9th SEC game, and also the Big Ten SEC scheduling lines, all tethered to any future playoff format. So that's what's going on. And why is that perfect for Ole Miss? Well, Ole Miss is going to have a yo-yo type existence just because of where they sit. The way the original college football playoff, it allowed certain programs to recruit to the playoff. That's the reason Ohio State and Alabama and Georgia and all that was able to stockpile talent in, because they are the schools that could recruit to the playoff. Ole Miss couldn't do that. Ole Miss had good teams. They didn't have great teams. So whenever more teams got invited into the system, the first 12-team playoff was obviously a boon for Ole Miss, but it was not a perfect system with the automatic tie-ins that they had and the buys that they had. With Boise State getting a 3 or 4 seed, it was problematic from the very beginning. So the SEC and the Big Ten is taking control of this process, and they did it by threatening to leave, if we're going to be honest. Now, I can understand why the Big 12 and the ACC and the G5, they're not going to be on board with this. But for Ole Miss, for Minnesota, there's so much to like about this potential process. And the schools that get into the playoff are usually from those two conferences anyway. So I'm not going to shed too many tears for the Big 12 or the ACC. They're talking about a 9-game conference schedule in the SEC. So that's one Georgia Southern or Georgia State off the schedule. They're talking about a Big 10 SEC alliance that pops in. 10 major games per season added to the schedule. Huge win for the fans of all the SEC and the Big 10 schools. An Ole Miss Iowa game in Vaught-Hemingway Stadium would be absolutely fun. It would be nuts. Heck, an Ole Miss Minnesota game or an Ole Miss Northwestern game would be awesome. An Ole Miss Indiana game would be awesome. You get the idea. That would be fun. But those 10 games are going to be a reward for the fans, because over the last 5 years, you've seen the prices go up for tickets. You've seen the prices go up for donating and paying the players. You've seen the prices go up for just about everything. They even charge now to tailgate in the Grove. That's a problematic thing. So this scenario would be a nice reward for the fans. It would, to have games that actually matter most of the season. Your home schedule become something that you're really interested in. 9 SEC games and 1 Big 10 game, that would be awesome. Second of all, you don't get to recruit to the playoff anymore if you're Alabama or Georgia or those schools that were able to break away at the top. It allows the top to come down. You saw that in the SEC this season, going to a 12-team playoff. That exclusivity is now gone, and those teams are coming back to the pack. And Ole Miss is, I don't want to say a second-tier school, because if you look at it, that has negative connotations. But the Alabamas, the Georgias, the teams that have a chance to be elite year in and year out, they have advantages baked in with what's going on. Maybe not as much as they did, but they do have advantages. This will allow Ole Miss to really shine. Second of all, the fact that they're going to go into play-in games on SEC Championship Saturday, which will be the SEC Championship game, the 3-6 game, and the 4-5 game, all on the same day. That means 6 teams that go into that last weekend with at least a chance to make the college football playoff, even though 2 of them are going home. So that is a top 6 out of 16 that Ole Miss now has to hit for a chance to make the playoff. And we all talked about the Big Ten SEC scheduling alliance. It will be a massive boon for Ole Miss, economically and otherwise. That's $4 million a year for an additional SEC game. So that's how much they're going to charge. Ole Miss is going to get money based off of the SEC Big Ten alliance game once that gets done as well. And all of a sudden, you've made a decent amount of money off of 2 games, and you're not paying money to get Georgia Southern to come in, which cost about $2 million just for the right for you to beat the brakes off of them. Financially, it makes a ton of sense, and everything in this world is being handled financially. And we'll talk about that in just a second, because what if all of these rumored ball games come to life? You know, ticket prices could skyrocket yet again. And what should fans do in this era of collectives and athletic funding? We'll discuss that next. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live. With player props, performance trends, same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. As the NBA playoffs start working towards their conclusion and we start thinking about that college football season, a $200 bonus bet that you get after winning that first $5 bet, if it hits, that'll help you out with that. And if you've got a decent read on what's going on in a game, you can use that to pick a same game parlay. If in baseball wise, you think that Spencer Torkelson and Riley Green are both going to have big games, you can put them together in the same game parlay. So if you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place that first $5 bet. If the bet wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. So in this new era of college football, there's going to be a lot of people that get kind of priced out of what's going on. And it's already started to happen. If for better or for worse, it started to happen. They're charging basically for tent setup in the Grove. All of those prices get passed on to the customer. It's going to cost a little bit more to do that. Maybe it'll be less crowded. Who knows? But as the prices of tickets and everything else go up, which they will, because now the athletic department with the House settlement, if it goes through, they're responsible for $20 million. They're going to find a way to recoup that money and get back to where they were. And a lot of that has to do with doing a little bit of business on a spreadsheet and looking at numbers. And it doesn't necessarily matter or look like that. The point is, what is the best way for Ole Miss fans to follow Ole Miss moving forward? There's going to be a group of people that are going to be fired up about going to the game. That's just going to happen all the time. People that love the camaraderie, people love going to the game. They like the energy that's inside the stadium, all of that stuff. People are going to be happy to do that. And if you have to pay an extra few $100s to do it, they're okay with that because they want that experience. And that is fine. Nobody's telling you not to do that. But as this becomes more of a TV program, and if you are a hardcore that wants to donate to what's going on, there's going to be a large number of people that do watch parties at home with the game on television while you donate that money that you would be spending on season tickets to the collective or something similar to that. And there's nothing wrong with that as well. The days of shaming people for not being in that little circle around Oxford, that's over. Because at the end of the day, players are the most important thing, and it's probably more important that you donate to the collective, because the collective will be the above and beyond of the Ole Miss athletic program. The $20 million that they have to get is going to come directly out of TV money and charging for the Grove and raising parking prices and all of that stuff. They're going to figure out the way to do what they need to do. The collective is the part where Ole Miss separates itself. I had Walker Jones on the show, and he talked about how Ole Miss needed to make $3 or $1 spend like $3. They need to be very efficient in who they go after. And Walker's just a great dude. If you have a chance to interact with Walker, you will be a better person for it because he is a good guy. The collective has taken on a role at Ole Miss of immense importance because it is run so well, because it is finding a way to accumulate talent on the field. Listen, last season, everybody knows Ole Miss went 9-3, but it wasn't because of the talent on the field. It wasn't because of the job that Walker Jones did. You look at the NFL draft and you can tell exactly how good that team is and how good that team was. If we could get away from the analytics, Ole Miss was a 12-0 team last year. They won every game that they won by more than double digits. They lost every game by one score or less. They lost a game at Florida, at LSU, and that game against Kentucky that nobody's going to get over anytime soon. But in this age, the point is Walker Jones did a bang up job assembling that roster, the best roster in the history of Ole Miss football. I was sitting there perusing the message boards over the weekend, and somebody called me a sunshine pumper. And I started doing this right before the Sugar Bowl in 2021. But I was called a sunshine pumper. Ole Miss has won 10 games, 3 out of 4 years in football. We've been to a Sweet 16 in basketball, multiple Sweet 16s in women's basketball, won a national title in baseball since I've been doing this. That's not a sunshine pumper. That's just letting you know sunshine is there. But I understand some fans want to be upset. They need to be upset. They need to look for the things that could go wrong. They're always waiting for the other shoe to drop. This is them problem, but they do that. But I just thought it was hilarious that people called me a sunshine pumper on what's going on. Yes, I am an optimistic person. I have no reason not to be. And if you look at the last 3 or 4 years of Ole Miss sports, neither does really Ole Miss. So we'll see exactly how that goes. So what is important to you, I guess, is the question. You obviously come here because you like the optimistic framework. You choose to go to a game or watch a game on TV, do whatever you want to do. What is important to you? And put it down in the comment section below. What Ole Miss can do for you. What is the thing that has happened over the last couple of years that is really taking your fandom either up or down? And in this age of, I don't know, these new games coming in where the ticket prices are going to go up, just get ready for that. They're not going to say they are, but they are going to go up just because of who is going to be on the schedule. We'll see exactly how that goes. What is important to fans? What is important to an Ole Miss fan? Is it better to be a person that watches a game on television and donates to the collective rather than going to an actual ball game? It's all personal preference, but it is an interesting question. We'll see exactly how that goes, because in this age of NIL, we talked about in the first segment, Ole Miss is perfectly positioned to take advantage of this new era of the college football playoff. Perfectly positioned. They're in that Goldilocks zone, that just right zone to do it. And because of that, everything is going to grow tentacles alongside of it. What needs to be important to you, and what this new college football playoff thing and Ole Miss, the boon that could come, should be pretty good. Should be really interesting indeed. So in our final segment, Ole Miss baseball split the season series with Mississippi State, and they need one more win for a 500 SEC record. But why are fans gnashing their teeth? Where does baseball fit in the Rebel landscape? We'll discuss that next. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertaining, it is easy to lose track. That is where Monarch Money comes in. It is your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control of your finances. It's not just a budgeting app. It is a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. When I started using Monarch a couple of months ago, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. It was actually quite a bit. Now I budget smarter and save even a little bit more. Instead of juggling multiple apps, I can use Monarch to check my finances, track spending, and even long-term goals. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, all one word, at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, all one word, for half off your first year. So Ole Miss won a national championship in 2022 in baseball. But the question is going to ask, in this new modern world of college athletics, where does baseball really fit? Now, it does have an important role. I'm not saying It doesn't. I'm not saying it's diminished, but whenever Ole Miss loses a game to Mississippi State, there's a lot of teeth gnashing that goes on because they never want to lose the game to Mississippi State. But the reality is, Ole Miss has 3 10-win seasons in football over the last 4 years. They made a Sweet 16 in basketball. They made multiple Sweet 16s in women's basketball, and they have a national championship in baseball. If you asked Mississippi State fans, and let's just be real about this for a second, if they would lose every game they played Ole Miss to have that level of success, would they do it? And the answer is yes. Ole Miss fans like to think that Mississippi State, they only care about beating Ole Miss. And a large part of the contingent, that is the case. We all made the jokes. They can go on 1-11 in football, but if they win the Egg Bowl, it's a successful season. That's kind of true, but it's not all the way true. They do desperately want to beat Ole Miss because there is a us versus them mentality. There's a rivalry. There's Ole Miss fans that get upset every time Ole Miss loses a baseball game to Mississippi State. And the reality of this is, and let's be real about this, Mississippi State wasting all of that money on Duty Noble Field is the reason they're in this NIL hole that they're in. Ole Miss and Mississippi State does not have a ton of money. They have to be efficient with what they're doing, and that requires making decisions on things. Keith Carter smartly put a big hold on the football stadium construction because he knew that the money would be better off elsewhere. Mississippi State built Duty Noble Field, and because of that, their NIL situation has been lacking from the very beginning. Hey, you can't have an identity of, hey, we don't have money and be good at NIL. It doesn't work that way. There's not a world where anybody can be surprised that SMU is good in this NIL world. The point is not wasting your money. Now, do you want to be competitive? Yes, you absolutely do. You don't want to be like Missouri, although Missouri won a series against Texas A&M over the weekend. You don't want to be there, but you don't want to waste the resources that you have on a sport that there is not a return on that investment. Now, everybody likes rivalry, and there's something to do in the springtime, and Ole Miss baseball has one of the better atmospheres in all of college baseball. It is important, but it's not so important that you ruin football over it. And in this new era of basketball, a lot of money is being allocated to Chris Beard and the Ole Miss Rebels. That means that baseball is not going to be on a shoestring budget, but they are going to be on a budget, and they're not going to fire Mike Bianco for raising his winning up 9 games over the course of 1 year and making an NCAA tournament because they lost to Mississippi State. Saying otherwise is stupid. I mean, that's the case. Mike Bianco is going nowhere. Be okay with that. If you are upset with it, don't buy season tickets next year. When Ole Miss goes to an NCAA tournament and sells 8,000 season tickets, Mike Bianco is safe. He's very safe. Mike Bianco doesn't deserve to be fired because of 9-game improvement from year to year. Ole Miss's 1 win against the Auburn Tigers from going 15-15 and likely being a 2 seed in the upcoming NCAA tournament. It's going to be okay. They made the jump that you expected. Did you expect them to go from 6-24 to 18-12? Was that the expectation that you had? That there wasn't going to be some semblance of a rebuild from year to year? Doesn't make much sense, because in this new era of NIL, college football is king, obviously. The resources going to college football, you can see them coming in. Ole Miss is investing heavily in college basketball, both men and women. Baseball, I think they're a little bit on a budget. I don't have exact numbers. Whenever you deal with NIL contracts, you have to deal with non-disclosure agreements and things like that. But if you just look at what's happening on the field, baseball's better, no doubt whatsoever. Mike Bianco deserves all the credit. Joel Mangrum deserves a ton of credit for what they've done. But baseball is probably in competition right now with women's basketball for NIL dollars, in my opinion. I think basketball is a solid number 2 as far as in the priority of NIL dollars right now. Like I said, this is just all my opinion. And football is by far the number 1. It's not even close. You can't even see the others from where football sits. And that is because of what Lane Kiffin has built. We did a show last week. Lane Kiffin has won 10 games, 3 out of the last 4 seasons, is probably going to do it again. It would surprise no one if Ole Miss won 10 games in the upcoming season. Basketball is kind of where Lane Kiffin was after the first Sugar Bowl, because Chris Beard made it to the Sweet 16. So between that and the run that they had and the excitement that was over a massive basketball run and what Lane Kiffin is doing, it makes sense. And those are really the 2 sports in college sports where there is a return on investment. You can break even. Nobody's saying you can't, but overall, the big revenue sports is men's basketball and men's football. It just kind of is what it is. Again, big thanks to Brian Smith. I am super thankful for all that he did. He'll be in Wednesday. He'll be in Friday. But after that, it's going to be all me. And that should be a lot of fun. We'll see exactly how that goes. It'll be 4 shows like this, a normal show next to, and then 3 evergreens. And then once we hit June, it'll be 5 shows a week, and we'll start working on our extras. And we're trying to build out the local squad shows and things like that. So we'll see exactly how that goes. It should be a lot of fun. Should be a whole lot of fun. But anyway, thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your go-to source for Ole Miss sports. We pride ourselves on offering the most comprehensive perspectives, which is why we're the number 1 Ole Miss podcast. Your support means the world to us. For your second listen, check out the Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes in college football. Find the Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Hotty toddy, everybody. And remember, analytics is just the old English word that means bad football. We'll see you next week, everybody.